don't fund the police, but do fund programs that create safe spaces for two-spirit people. What is? I just want to know. I don't know what that is. I have no idea what that is.
Well, I honestly, I'm not completely aware of the language or
you wrote the
report. How that was
written.
But what I'm telling you is that what
is a two-spirit individual? I mean, really, this is. Thanks to all the witnesses for being here. Ms. Cook, I want to say thank you especially to you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for telling your story. And I'm sorry for what you and your family have had to endure. And it's powerful to have you here today. Thank you very much. I want to talk about some of these policies that have gotten to where we are today. Mr. Jackson, if I could just start with you. You were deputy director in the Biden White House for gun violence and a special assistant to the president. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
You're also affiliated with the Community Justice Action Fund. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm also a survivor of gun violence.
You were their executive director. When was that? The Community Justice Action Fund.
2021 to 2023.
And you're affiliated with them now?
Yes, as executive advisor.
Okay. The Community Justice Action Fund is. Do you disclose your donors?
Yes.
All of the donors are public?
Yes.
You're funded by the Tides Advocacy Group, among others?
They're a fiscal sponsor.
This is right.
They handle our
donor.
HR.
Yeah. This is a George Soros funded group.
No.
He's one of the donors.
No.
He's a donor to the Tides Advocacy Group.
Yeah, that's our fiscal sponsor. So they handle our HR, our back office, our operations.
Great. Okay. Great. So in other words, I mean that's
we're one of 300 organizations.
Right. That they run. You are a subset
we
of
pay
them.
Pay them to be a fiscal sponsor.
Well, you are a subset of that organization, which he helps to fund, right? Okay. All right. Just wanted to get a level set here. So let's just. I want to ask you about some of the policies that you've advocated because they're exactly what we see implemented in these blue cities, like defunding the police.
No.
Oh, indeed.
That's not. We advocate for.
Wait, I haven't asked a question yet. We'll get to. I've got a lot of questions. Believe me. And I'll give you time. So let's talk about this report that you issued when you were executive director, a policymaker's playbook. And I'll ask you to enter it into the record, Mr. Chairman. Great.
Without objection.
Thank you. In this report, you advocate, and I quote now, defunding the police because the long-term goal is fundamentally to reimagine how the state serves its citizens in the project of public safety. You go on to say police departments traumatize residents through a destructive cycle of racist over-policing, and the answer is not to add any more money to police budgets. Talk to me about, I mean, why is it that denying policing to the most vulnerable communities is a solution? I know that's what the blue cities are doing, but why is that a good idea?
Well, look, I in no way stand with defunding law enforcement. I mean,
that's what your report says.
Sheriff Mike Sheridan, who taught me how to drive when I was 16 years old.
Wait. Your report, when your executive director said you wanted to defund the police, do you renounce this report? Mr. Jackson, do you renounce the report that you authored as executive director? Here it is.
You're the second senator to bring up an op-ed or
this isn't an op-ed. This is your report, a policymaker's playbook to reduce gun violence without policing communities.
Okay.
Community Justice Action Fund, copyright 2023, when you were executive director. Now you say you don't know anything about it. Now you say that you haven't heard of it, just like the Democrats who all of a sudden say, oh, we're all for the police. They've been advocating defunding them for years.
Okay, well, you can look at documents or you can look at
My
results.
question is, do you renounce this report now? You say you no longer read this.
And my answer is that I led the efforts to invest $42 billion in law enforcement.
You've advocated defunding the police as executive director of an organization that you still lead and are affiliated with.
Never see me advocate for that directly. What you see me advocate for is a comprehensive approach to reducing violence.
Right, the comprehensive approach is defunding the police, which is what this says.
The entire time.
This is so typical of what the Democrats do now. After your policies have transparently failed and led to the deaths of millions of Americans, now you say you've never heard of defunding the police. Your own report recommends it on page after page after page. Let me ask you about something else you say. Here's what you say we ought to invest in. Instead of funding the police, here's what we ought to invest in. We need to invest in programs that acknowledge the need for safe space initiatives led by lesbian, gay, bisexual, two-spirit, trans, and gender nonconforming people. What's two-spirit?
Well, look, I don't know exactly. You guys are pulling some interesting quotes.
This is from your report.
If you look at the report, the focus is on investing in violence intervention, outreach workers.
What is you say that you shouldn't invest in the police, but we ought to invest in two-spirit community programs that acknowledge two-spirit.
We are not going to discriminate against that. We're not going to discriminate against any nonprofit that wants to help us prevent violence.
What is two-spirit? You say don't fund the police, but do fund programs that create safe spaces for two-spirit people. What is? I just want to know. I don't know what that is. I have no idea what that is.
Well, I honestly, I'm not completely aware of the language or
you wrote the report.
How that was written. But what I'm telling you is that what
is a two-spirit individual? I mean, really, this is your policymaker's playbook. You are the witness called by the Democrats on this committee, so I assume you reflect their views. Well, you don't want to fund the police. You want to fund safe spaces for two-spirit individuals. What is a two-spirit person?
I feel like I'm looking at a two-faced individual because you talk about
Oh,
reducing
no, sir.
violence.
You're looking at somebody who's
You're also
reading you
speaking
your
out
own
against
words, and I'd like to hear an
violence
answer.
programs.
Here's the answer. The answer is you don't have any solutions. You want to invest in gobbledygook and take away money from police officers who actually keep our communities safe, and when you're called on the record, you deny it. It's all there in black and white, and your record is there in black and white, and it's a disgrace.
We reduced homicides by 31%, and as someone who's been shot and nearly killed, I take offense that you would think that
I
the
take
last
offense
13
that you
years
won't answer my
we're not
questions,
focused on
that you
reducing
deny your
violence.
own words, and that you are leading this committee astray. And frankly, sir, your policies are absurd. They're absurd.
I don't think we're getting any place, so let's...
And so that is where this hearing ends. Not with clarity, not with genuine search for solutions, not with a sober forensic of what prevents violence in America. It ends with Senator Josh Hawley demanding a definition of two-spirit from a former Biden senior advisor, while simultaneously refusing to allow him a single uninterrupted sentence to actually define anything at all. It ends with Hawley reading selective lines from a 2023 nonprofit playbook, insisting those lines are proof of intentional destruction of America, insisting the witness personally authored policy to defund the police, while the witness tries, desperately, repeatedly, to point to actual data, actual results, actual real-world homicide reduction. It ends on that moment, that fracture point moment, that televised, clipped, engineered moment built entirely for rage-forward virality, where policy becomes prop, where nuance becomes enemy, where the hearing becomes theater and not governance. This moment reveals something deeper about the state of American power. A United States Senator, one of only 100 human beings who have structural access to the entire machinery of federal law, is not using this hearing to expand public understanding. He is wielding his time to collapse public attention down to moral panic, to take the entire universe of structural gun violence, the actual systems that kill Americans, and shrink it to a one-word culture war prompt. Two-spirit, because that triggers a fight faster than data ever could, because that generates the Fox chyron faster than any multivariable policy model ever could, because that hits emotional circuitry with no cognitive load, because the purpose was never persuasion, it was domination. What this hearing exposes is how far from democratic self-governance we have drifted. The modern far right constantly needs an external corruption villain. They need a character to punch. They need a target to perform discipline upon. Soros. Two-spirit. Blue cities. Democrats who hate the police. These become iconography placeholders. They are symbols, not arguments. They are symbols, not policy. They are symbols, not solutions, and they become the architecture by which the GOP avoids ever having to address the actual root variables that produce the most gun deaths of any wealthy nation on earth. While the witness attempts to talk about layered investment in intervention workers, data-driven outreach, homicide reduction impact, the senator forces a binary. Force the hearing into a binary. Force the emotional frame into a binary. Force all of America into a binary. Fund police or chaos. That is the point. Because once the frame is locked, the truth is irrelevant. The numbers are irrelevant. The results are irrelevant. The lived experience of the man sitting in the witness chair, who literally survived being shot, becomes irrelevant, because none of this is about listening. This is what happens when government becomes performance machine instead of reason machine. When the objective is not to improve the country, but to dominate the information environment long enough to create a perception of moral ruin. if you can portray the other side as culturally alien, linguistically incomprehensible, ideologically insane, you never need to engage with the hard, boring work of real reform. This is how national decline becomes profitable. This is how polarization becomes intentional tool, not tragic accident. And this is why this moment matters so much, because it shows the deeper structural threat. The threat is not disagreement. Democracy is disagreement. The threat is when one faction decides the only legitimate political project is conquest of narrative. When one faction replaces governance with permanent accusation, when hearings are no longer instrument of oversight and instead become public ritual humiliation arenas to feed the clip economy. This is where you see the rot. This is where you see the stakes. If hearings are only instruments of punishment, we lose the republic function of hearings entirely. If hearings are only theatrical battle zones, we lose the ability to generate shared truth at all. And when shared truth collapses, all other rights are downstream from that collapse, because a country that cannot reason cannot self-govern. The witness today was never going to be allowed to speak, because his story was irrelevant to the outcome. The outcome was predetermined before he sat down. The outcome was predetermined before the cameras rolled. The outcome was predetermined before the staff briefed the senator. The only objective here was to create a moment that could be chopped into 22 seconds and blasted across millions of phones to produce maximum rage with minimum context. That is the new lever of power, and that is why this clip might be one of the most important warnings of this era, because it reveals how much of Congress is now designed to operationalize narrative warfare instead of policy design. And unless America wakes up to this shift, unless America recognizes this as democracy poisoning, unless America demands hearings return to functional purpose, we are going to continue down this path until the only governance left is mimetic combat in front of live microphones. Real democracy requires attention, requires discipline, requires rigor, requires listening. We either reclaim that or we surrender the country to this, and that is why Liberal Line exists. Because someone has to slow the tape down. Someone has to narrate what is actually happening behind the noise. Someone has to translate spectacle back into stakes. If this made you feel the danger that is not abstract but immediate, stay here. Subscribe to Liberal Line.